Welcome to Amazon Legends, where we have real stories about making it big on Amazon. Our guests are CEOs of large companies and entrepreneurs who became power sellers, also providers specializing in helping sellers, aggregators that acquire sellers, and former Amazonians will give us an insight from behind the scenes. Here is your host, Nick Uresin.
Welcome to another episode of Amazon Legends. My next guest today has been a serial entrepreneur with a few seven-figure businesses, wrote a novel, taught leadership class to 12,000 kids, and a former CEO of I Love to Review. So today he runs Page One. He's the CEO and founder of Page One, which is a full-service Amazon agency. And when he's not working, he's an avid pickleball player. He was talking to me about pickleball and how crazy he is about it. He plays 6 days a week and wants to play senior pro one day. So with that, everybody, meet my guest, Keith O'Brien. Welcome to the show, Keith.
Hey, thanks, Nick. Appreciate you having me on.
So this pickleball, I've heard a few people play pickleball, but it's an interesting one. Most my guests say, oh, golf. I love golf. So they're all into golfing.
Yeah, I used to golf quite a bit. I think, in my earlier days, I was playing a couple, 2-3 times a week golf. And I still love golf. It's probably the most challenging game on the planet to learn and get good at. But golf's not really that social. You socialize with the 3 people you play with, or the 2 people you play with, or one, and it takes a long time, right? Like a round is 4 or 5 hours and plus travel time. And so, and it's super expensive, right? I mean, golf is a very, very expensive hobby. So I don't know, as I got older, I just looked for something else that I could do. And I wanted to kind of combine fun with activity, and found pickleball, and it's great. So it's a great workout, cardio wise. It's super social, and and it's easy to start playing. It's hard to get good. So I like, it's a challenge. Yeah.
So you work with Amazon sellers and as a full service agency. I mean, obviously your success depends on your client's success. So how do you make your clients successful?
Well, we really do a few things. Well, we do a lot of things, all kind of packed into 3 things. We really understand the marketplace and where they're at, where they fit in, competitor research, and where they are at in the marketplace. We understand their goals and what they're looking to accomplish in the marketplace. And then we set a strategy that's really blending those 2 things together with a bunch of different levers we pull within Amazon and what's available to us.
Okay. So you start with the fit, right? So where do they fit in the marketplace? So a lot of entrepreneurs, I mean, there's 2 aspects of this. One is go do your product research based on all kinds of different criteria, and you put in all the numbers, and then you look at what it is, and then you come up with something. And then the other is you are a creator. You've got a product, or in many cases it's a company, established company, and then they have their product lines and everything else. So they're gonna now sell it on Amazon. So tell me your process about figuring out where the seller fits in the marketplace.
All right. How long do we have? How much into the weeds do you want to get here? So I think beyond like so to expand on what you were mentioning, right? I think that's been the strategy is, do the keyword research, understand what competitors are selling and how much they're selling, and then look for ways that you can get into that marketplace, whether it be through, I mean, back in the day, it used to be, if we can make our listing look better, optimize it better than the competition, we can drive our way into this marketplace because we're going to stand out. But more and more categories are filled with really good sellers, right? Who have great creative, that have well optimized listings. And so you need a little bit more than that, really. And so, we, beyond just the keyword research and how many units people are selling, and if you see an opportunity, we want to understand what the size of the marketplace is as well. And so, a great tool to use for that would be the Product Opportunity Explorer inside of Amazon. It's a somewhat relatively new feature, maybe a year and a half or so, and it gives you a lot of data, right? So it gives you the search volume trends, and when it comes to tools, I love going straight to Amazon because they're accurate, right? Not to say that other tools aren't, but it's Amazon, right? So they're giving you the data. It shows you the year-over-year trends on the independent search words. It shows you the trends in the niche, and then it gives you a click share, of all the top sellers in the niche. And so you can kind of get an idea of what the marketplace is, and what you're going to need to start taking advantage of the click share that's there. And you can kind of backdoor into the opportunity that exists if you put some pressure on it through great optimization, pricing strategies, and advertising.
So it's the Product Opportunity Explorer.
Correct.
That's the tool Amazon offers.
Yes.
Tell us about that tool. So let's understand, because what I'm hearing is that plays a big role in some of your
Sure
steps that you take. So tell us about that tool. First of all, where is it? How can people find it?
Yeah, it's under brand. Yeah, it's under brand analytics. So it's one of the tools in the suite of tools with that available to you as a registered brand. And that part of Amazon's probably where they've spent the most time improving. There's a bunch of tools under there. So that's where you find it. And then, so for example, like most of the companies we work with, are somewhat established brands. Not all of them. We work with, new to Amazon brands. But if it's an existing brand, and let's say the company that has a SKU that's already in the top 5 for their biggest keyword, right? So it's doing well, it's selling. But a lot of brands, like, they want to get from doing a few $1 million a year to, a few more $1 million a year, right? And so by going in there and looking at, they're sitting already, let's say, in number 3 for a keyword. Well, you can now start looking at what that actually means in terms of click share, right? And then so you can start adding up what all the different SKUs on, on that page are doing in terms, like, they're all dividing the total search volume and clickable search volume by whatever their little percentage is, right? So, the larger the percentage that brand has of click share, the harder it is to increase it, right? So, if you only have a few points, then you can start analyzing, okay, what are these other guys doing that we're not? Is it a price issue? Is it a listing issue? Is it a content issue? Is it an image issue? Is it an advertising strategy? You can start to analyze what the click share is of the competitors and what they might be doing differently than you. And it gives you an opportunity to see, how much of an increase you could potentially go after based on who's gobbling up that click share on page 1.
I see. So this is for a specific listing or just as a brand?
You can do both. You can do both, right? So the Opportunity Explorer gives you the category volume, and then if you click into it, you can get specific search term data. So it's driven by the search term inside the category.
I see. So and this is whether or not you have a listing in that category. When
does it for everything. It's kind of like like one of the other features in the brand analytics is just a search term volume, right? Search term data, and that's going to be all of Amazon, right? Yeah.
So for the listeners' benefit, let's because you know how it is with Amazon. You have to read between the lines, right? So they don't tell you everything straight. You have to read the lines. So for the listeners' benefit, what I'm hearing is this: as long as you have a registered brand, and you open an Amazon seller account, and then you get brand registry to take your brand, put it on brand registry, and link it up to your seller account correctly. Because those things are all things that we take for granted, but a lot of people don't do it the right way, right? So they have a brand registry account under somebody else's email, and then their seller account is on the primary user is somebody else, and they're not connected. So as long as you do it all properly, connect it all up, now all you have to do is go to brand's homepage, and then right there, go to Product Opportunity Explorer. Amazon is basically telling you, you want to sell products under this brand? Here is data, figure out what to sell, right? That's what they are saying.
Yeah, to an extent, I think that this conversation is probably more valuable to the already existing seller, but it's got a lot of data for the new seller as well. It's what it's going to take to get into a marketplace. With most of the brands that we manage, they're existing businesses, right? So, and it gives you the good or bad news, right? It also gives you the search volume trends year over year. So, for example, we work with a large 8-figure client, and their goals when we first started with them in September were to grow 20% this year, right? So that means we're trying to add, multiple millions to the top line at profit, right? With profit. So going in and doing this research, they sell in 3 different related categories. So one category, they're the dominant market leader. I mean, they had an 89% click share.
Oh my God.
I mean, amazing, right? And then the other 2 categories, there's a lot of room for growth, right? So we're able to look at this, and then we're also to see in that category that they were the 89% click share. That category also was trending with a 30+% year over year growth for the last like 4 years. So if we can maintain that click share dominance, right, and then the trend continues, we're going to kill it in the big category. But to try to go after a higher click share when they already have 89% is insanely hard, right? Like it's trying to fight off the little guys that are just kind of, the new guy comes in, then backs off, new guy comes in. But there was great opportunity in the 2 other categories, and so we ended up choosing to focus on a couple things, but mainly on the category that they were lagging behind to really exercise that growth. For the big one, we just are on a course to maintain market dominance, right? And we're seeing the same kind of search volume trends continue this year. So we're, it's trending well, and we're in like our 5th month for those guys, and I think we're up 15 points in the first couple months.
Okay, so Product Opportunity Explorer is where you are seeing where there is growth opportunity, and based on specific listings. So there's a bit of an oxymoron, because there are new sellers, or there are established companies becoming new seller. They already have products. So in order to have access to this, you have to be brand registered. In order to be brand registered, you have to have a trademark, and you may not have products yet, but clearly if you have a brand, you will have products. So you go do this. If you already have existing listings, then that's even better, because now you are able to see exactly where you fit in. So that's how you identify where the brand fits. So now the next step is to set strategy about what you're going to go after, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now that you've decided what you're going after, the first thing is to increase click share.
Yeah, I mean, I think every product sits somewhere in its life cycle, right? And so look, when we come in to work with a brand, we identify a bunch of things right off the bat. So we're going to do a deep assessment on their catalog, right? So I mean, let's just pick a number. Let's say it's got 20 SKUs, right? We're going to identify where the money's coming from. So generally speaking, most catalogs, 80% of the revenue comes from 20 to 25% of the SKUs. Sometimes you have a catalog that sells really well, really deep, but that's unusual. And so then we're going to divide that catalog into tiers. So tier 1 is where the money's coming from. Tier 2 is, the next round and possible kind of sleeper opportunities, right? Sometimes there's a SKU in a catalog that just because it hasn't got a lot of advertising or focus, but it could be really good. And those are great opportunities. And then we assess it. So what do these listings need? Are they the best in class photos? Are they best in class content? Are they hitting on all the keywords? Are they the best in class design? Do they have video? Like literally, we want to make sure that we're using every single tool that Amazon allows sellers to use to compete, right? And then once we understand the marketplace, we're setting an advertising strategy focused around generally where the best sellers, where the money's coming from. So we're going to focus our actual ad spend on what's driving the revenue to maximize it.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I always struggle with, this is assuming that the listings are not really generating high volume, but they are out there, they've been out there for a while, and the mediocre, it's not doing much. The bestseller rank is high 5 digits. So you get a client like that. Most people are like that. Because they launch and then the next thing is time goes by. So how do you handle listings like that? Because there is the UP. You can't do a brand new launch because you need a new UP and everything else. So share with us some of the strategies that you apply.
Yeah, I think like you're doing it in very much the same way, right? You're looking, it's easy to kind of fall in love with a listing and a product, but if you're looking at it objectively and say, okay, so my listing is great, this is great, like you got to look at the actual offer, right, and compare it against the best sellers. And so sometimes, brands will take an average product and put it in a great packaging and think it's now premium. And that's just not the case, right? So premium packaging can get you a few extra bucks, but it's not gonna double the price of your product, right? So you got to look at the offer. Do I belong? Like, why is someone going to buy my product compared to the other ones that show on page 1 for a keyword, right? So every keyword is going to have different search results, but 85% of the people searching for a keyword are never going to go past the bottom of the page 1, right? So, does my offer, here's my product and value proposition with the price I'm asking for it, does it belong on page 1? And if you can't say yes, then you got to change your offer. So and it can't just be you and like your mom or your girlfriend that says yes, your offer should belong there, right? It's got to actually be the market, right? Some stranger that doesn't know who you are and how much blood, sweat, and tears you put into bringing this product to fruition. Like, does the offer make sense on page 1?
How do you assess if an offer makes sense or not?
Look at the value, right? People buy things for a variety of reasons, right? But psychologically speaking, we buy things to elevate our status, right? So we are looking to gain something. We're looking to solve some sort of problem. We're looking to eliminate some sort of pain point in our life by buying that product. And while eliminating that pain point, if it can elevate our status in life, right? Like it looks good, it makes us feel good, then that's all the better. So, you know, if you got to kind of look at the visual imagery, you know, how you're telling the story of how this product solves a problem. And if it's kind of like the same as everybody else, then you kind of come down to a price conversation. If it's different for some reason, then what are those differences worth?
So I did not hear you mention the price right off the bat. You're talking about differentiating yourself first by offering something better with better picture, so that you're establishing yourself as a I don't want to use the word premium, but premium-ish kind of characteristics. And then price obviously matters, but as long as people's perception is, oh, this looks like a good product, it's gonna, you know, enhance my life, I can see myself using it.
Yeah. So exactly, and you know, you can't always drive a premium price on a product for sure. It really depends on the category, right? So you take a category like beauty. Well, there's a lot of reasons that people will pay more money for beauty products, right? You know, there's arguably as many people concerned with what they put on their skin and the quality of that, you know, those things, as there are with people finding the cheapest thing I can to make my skin better, right? So it just depends on the category, right? Like you might not be able to really drive the price home of a premium spatula, right? But I don't know. I've got a premium spatula in my kitchen because all the other ones melt or break, right? I mean, so like I just got tired of buying crap, and I'm happy to spend a little more money on something a little more expensive that'll last longer. So so you can do it in most categories, but some are going to lend themselves to, you know, a little bit. And you got to play what game you want to play, right? So do you want to sell all volume and work at a lower margin and just drive velocity, which is fine? Or do you want to sell a little bit less and work on a premium level? I think that probably the most challenging one is the middle price product. That I think like over and over, like I just did a analysis on a category for a client just like an hour ago, and the premium price, this is a big volume category, premium price category, like of this same search term, the premium SKUs, only had about 25% market share in terms of unit sales, but represented 45% of the sales volume. Then there was the middle tier, which I'll leave for the final. The bottom tier represented a 74% market share in terms of unit sales, right? But only about a 60% volume market share, right? So it was really interesting. And the premium space by far makes the most profit in that particular category.
So in terms of unit sales, you're looking at number of units sold, and then by volume, you're talking about the sales, the dollar value.
Yeah, unit sales. Yeah. So a way you can kind of get an idea if a higher price has the demand is just see what's on page one, right? So if a higher price SKU is holding its own on page one amongst a lot of other lower price SKUs, then there's the market saying that enough people want something higher priced in that space, right? And there's arguably going to be less people sellers trying to compete at that level than on the bottom.
How does the price compare to the total sales? Because the unit sales, if the unit sales are low,
right,
and the price is high, your total sales will be naturally higher.
This particular category had about $9 million in sales on page one a month, right? Big volume, right? The low price ones, so call it sub $20, represented about 4.6 million of that 9. The high price ones represented about 3.6 million of it. And then the middle ones only about 1 million, right? So it's interesting, right? That like somewhere like people either want the cheapest or the best. No one wants to be in the middle.
So you don't price yourself, your product, mid-tier.
Yeah,
So
I
this,
mean, I noticed like I have a small brand that I've kept active for years, and it turns over a decent amount of revenue. But I had a product that I would consider mid-tier priced, and I raised the price and sold more.
so that's what I was going to ask next. So if you find yourself, you are in the middle, what do? Do you drop or do you increase?
You got to test both, and you got to decide what business you want, right? So like I don't like sourcing. I just don't like it. Freaking hate it, right? So I'd rather sell less units at a premium price and make more profit per unit than I would having to turn over inventory every month. Because I hate sourcing, right? I just hate it.
Well, it's easier. Well, when you say sourcing, of course, it starts with sourcing. You have to source more, but now you have to warehouse more, transport more, account for more, and more transactions.
I like the front side of the business of Amazon way more than I like the back side of the business. So
yeah.
But some people are opposite, right? They love the logistics and all the supply chain stuff. And I have friends that are just geniuses at it, right? And they love it. They're brilliant. So, but that's not me. And so you got to play to your strengths,
So really, we've been talking now about 25, 26 minutes. So you laid out a strategy here that's very smart. So I want to just kind of summarize it for the listeners' benefit. So first of all, go to your product opportunity explorer, pick the category, and then see where the opportunity is, where you can increase the click share. If you are already running high, then don't waste your time with it, because the incremental increases will be much harder to gain than something that you get low click share. Once you take the low click share, then that's a good place to spend some time and effort. Then you flip over and then you look at the market, and you split the market into 3 tiers. Unit sales and total sales, where you have low click share. So now from there, what you are doing is you're saying, okay, where does my product fit in this landscape? And wherever you decide to be, and your choice would be my choice also, work less and then get more, right? So it's high value effort, put it that way. So
Sure.
Then you once you decide, okay, this is where I'm going to focus, then the next thing is decide how your product will fit into that particular tier with the competition. And then that's where you try to differentiate yourself with what you are offering, with your content, your value, whether you're offering bundles or anything like that. So is that kind of a good summary of what you were talking about?
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Yeah. Oh, great. Okay, because I listen. One of my favorite sayings is, "Are you listening or are you waiting to talk?" So,
yeah, right.
Ever since I heard that, I'm always making sure that I'm not waiting to talk. So, okay. So now that we have the whole strategy, we know where we want to be, and we know how we're going to increase our share. So tell us the tactical aspect of it. So what are things? So you mentioned pictures. You mentioned.
Yeah.
But let's break this down, Keith. Let's break this down. First, let's talk about increasing the click-through rate. So, because for click-through, you really have very few things. You have the main product image, you have your reviews, your price, and your title, right? That's pretty much all you have to work with.
Well, yes, back in the day, right? So, Amazon's always testing crap, right? They're always testing something. So, one of the things that is showing up in the search results now that wasn't even a few months ago is your video, right? So for some categories, if you're scrolling down the search results and there's a video on the listing, it's going to start playing when that listing, when the person's mouse gets to that listing. So as soon as you hover over it, your video, which is replacing your image 7, starts to autoplay, and it's moving in the search results. It's fantastic, right?
You're not referring to the video ad.
Nope. Nope. So this is I saw it for the first time maybe 3 months ago. And so it's not across every category, but as you scroll down the page and as your mouse moves down, where it hits a certain point on your screen, the video on the listing takes the place of image number, the main hero image, and starts to play.
Really? I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. So like, what a huge advantage to a listing that has a video. Like, I mean, it grabs people's attention like crazy.
What if you have multiple videos?
Well, in your listing, you'd only have the one on your on image number 7 or image number 2, whatever, depending on your category.
Yeah, you can have multiple videos, but only one of them will show up in the
right. The one, yeah. If you have to click into it and then get the other videos, it's just the first one.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So your first video, I've never seen this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I've only seen it in a handful of categories, but me and other colleagues have been talking about it for the last couple of months. But to your point though, there's only so many things that you can do to get a click, right? Price, title, hero image, reviews, and then any type of promotional, anything promotional you have on a listing, like a limited time deal or a coupon.
Yeah. Let's talk about the badges, because they also help you get some clicks,
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
so
of course.
Tell me about some of your favorite badges that you've seen.
All the badges are my favorite. I mean, they're all good. I mean, like, look, the easy ones that you can get without really doing anything, like small business badge, comes with you. If you're a couple of years ago, they made a big push into this climate pledge friendly, and you can get that badge in a lot of different ways. Some of it takes a lot of work, but some of it's just filling out the right forms in the back. These are related to like packaging, ingredients, size, like materials that you use, this kind of thing. And then some of it's related to like your supply chain and that kind of stuff. But those show up, those are cool because that's going to fit with a certain kind of buyer. The rest are all performance based, right? Amazon's choice,
Right.
bestseller, new release, right? Like those are the best new release, bestseller, and Amazon's choice are kind of the 3 main ones.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you get, as far as, I want to also ask you something on the ranking. So you have to be on page 1. Page 1 means 20 listings, right? So you have to be in that.
Depends on the category. 24, I think, is the minimum. 16 is the minimum, but it goes all the way up to 48 in some categories.
Yeah. So you have to be in that batch. Is it better to be ranking right at the top or purposely in the middle?
Is that a trick question?
I want to know what your thoughts are.
Yeah. So
ideas for either one, right?
I mean, based on like looking at who's got click share, I mean, the first page, top row is a sponsored brand ad, right? Next row, usually the first 4 listings are all ads, right? So depending on the category, those ads could take up the entire top row of search results. Sometimes they take up 4 out of the 5 results, whatever. Yeah, like some of the beauty categories have 60 results on page 1, right? Yeah. But then the next row is basically the first row of organic search, right? Including whatever one slips in the row above. And those positions get far and away the most click share.
So
like 70+%.
Yeah, I mean those top ones. So
Yeah.
you know, also Amazon presents the results different. Some generally you have a grid, and
Right.
the first row of the grid usually is the sponsored, and then the second row. Sometimes they even split the second row half and half, so you have some
Yeah.
sponsored. But either way, your organic listings will start somewhere in this, let's say, the second row and the third row, and then it goes down from that. So my question is, would you want to be in that second row, the first one of the
Yeah.
first organic?
You want to be above Amazon's crap, right? By that I mean like the editorial reviews with recommendations, what I think I heard are going away, which would be good. The Amazon does like the highest rated products, like it's got like a box for highest. You want to be above all that stuff, right? And that's depending on the category and how the display is. That could be the top 3 listings, 4 listings, 5 listings, or 6 listings.
Yeah,
but you want to be above them.
the reason I'm asking is because I've heard from a couple of people, at least, that they say that these are like power sellers that want to do a lot. They say, we don't want to be at the top because we get targeted. We get targeted by people who copy, and so it's a lot more visibility that way. Instead, be somewhere in the middle, definitely still on the first page, but you are better off being in the middle, selling less, but you can avoid all the trouble that you're gonna get by getting targeted. That's what I was asking.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it just depends. Again, I think it depends on what you're good at and what you're prepared to do, right? So if you're in the top couple of positions, you got to play, you have to have a strong defensive game too. You got to, get hijackers off your listings, go after unauthorized resellers to the extent that you can. So you've got other work to do for sure if you're in a top position, but generally speaking, it pays for it.
Yeah. So the other thing, I don't know what your experience is, but when I work with people, one of the things that I always notice is, because usually we're doing screen share, right? So I'm showing people, go here, go there. So when they land on a page, it's a habit. I don't know how this started, but it's like an epidemic. They immediately scroll down.
Okay.
So I tell them, we read from left to right, and then we start writing from the top and then work our way down.
Sure.
So have you read everything at the top and then you're just scrolling down? It's just a habit.
It's a habit from phones, right? We're like scrolling like forever on a phone, and I think we've just gotten used to that. Like we're so used to social media and doing this all the time. Yeah.
Or the dating apps. That's left to right. So what is your experience about? I mean, do you have anything? I wonder if, because those who have the habit of scrolling down, they're not going to see what's at the top. They're looking at the middle, right?
That's true. And look, I mean, the majority of search starts on a mobile device anyway, which delivers one listing at a time, right? If you're on a phone. And like, depending on the day, Amazon, there was a time where Amazon didn't have pages on mobile. You could just scroll forever. I mean, and they're always changing that stuff. I think a lot of people scroll down just by nature, but then go back, right? The reality is there's a trust factor in those top positions that doesn't exist lower. And we're just used to it. I mean, even Google today, the stats haven't changed on Google search compared to 10 years ago. The top 3 listings still get 80+% of the clicks. So if that habit and that result hasn't changed really in the last decade, it's going to be very similar on Amazon, right? And we can see it by click share. Those top few positions take up a lion's share of the clicks. So if people are scrolling down to check it out, I think they're window shopping, and then they're going back to make their decisions.
Yeah. Okay. So we've covered the click-through rate. So I mean, ultimately, what you're looking to do is just find a way to differentiate yourself.
Sure.
Review is a big deal. Badges. If you don't have it, get a small business badge. You have to, again, for the listeners' benefit, that's a seller support thing, right? So you have to reach out, ask them to get it. So there's no like click here and then suddenly it's on. So
correct.
They have to do that. And then your main picture, and I have not heard about this video. I'm definitely going to be on the lookout. So that means for everybody listening, get a video and don't make this video. This is the biggest mistake. Don't make this video with your phone 2.5 minutes long, right? This has to be. So I tell people, look, imagine that you were given the opportunity to show your commercial during the Super Bowl. Do you like shoot it with your phone and then make it 3 minutes long? No, you get somebody to create it professionally, right? So that's what your video should be. It has to be, and of course, as soon as you do it, then Amazon has the guidelines that you have to, you cannot even have spelling errors in the video if you have print.
Right.
So,
videos getting harder and harder to get approved, right? So, I mean, you can definitely get them, but they are kicking videos out a lot more frequently than they used to, you know. So you can't do a lot of the. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll share with you something that happened to me. So I have a client, and they sell a kit, and the kit has 14 pieces in it, and it's a floor kit. So what happens is they build this video and the video got rejected. And of course, they don't tell you exactly why. So they send you the link to go look at the guidelines. So they can't figure out why it's rejected. So I read the guidelines. So somewhere in the, and of course, the guidelines say that you cannot have typos. Also, you don't want to have something in the bottom right corner and some like a subtitle or anything like that. You cannot have. So I'm looking at it. They have no subtitles, no nothing. And these videos are obviously, they're not long. So it's like 15, 20 seconds long. And I'm like, watch it over and over and over. And in the end, I noticed it. There is a picture that flashes through, and the picture has all the items in the kit. And then it says your 14-piece blah, blah kit. Well, they didn't put the hyphen. And it got rejected.
That's insane. Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, these are things that you have to do. And you know, what's amazing for me is it's AI. AI is picking up these things.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now we are on the product detail page.
Okay.
So let's talk about how to get the most out of the product detail page.
Lead people through an emotionally relevant and engaging story, right? So I'm trying to put it all, there's lots of pieces of that, but you want to lead people through, you want to pull people in with the emotion of their pain, why they're buying, what the product is solving for them. And, you know, unfortunately, like, you know, the two motivators, moving away from pain, moving towards pleasure. And we're messed up as human beings. So moving away from pain is more of a motivator, right? So, I mean, think about it, right? Like someone gets in a place where they're overweight, right? Like the desire to get fit is less of a motivator than when they have a heart attack and then the doctor says you need to lose weight or you're going to die, right? Like it is. We all know how to exercise, right? It's not the knowledge. We all know the benefits of it, but sometimes in life it's not until we hit that pain point. So, you know, think of in terms of problem/solution, and then encapsulate that problem/solution with the pleasure points, right? And so, you know, you got to do that in a visual story. A great way to do that is start looking at the reviews of your competitors. That's also in the brand analytics. You can start looking at all these different reviews, If you're across, you know, some of the AI tools like Chat GPT, you can go to download all the negative reviews of your competitors, have Chat GPT sort them all out, look for commonalities. You know, it'll, hey, find every word in all these reviews that has mentioned over 25 times, right? And it'll pull out all the data for you. And if you can answer, if your product actually does solve those things and you can address those in your visuals, that's great. So, but you got to lead them through a visual story, focusing on the problem that it solves and moving through the pleasure points and addressing anything that's come up through your customer interactions, right? And so, you know, if you're getting a lot of feedback on something specific, you should be addressing that in your listing, right? Like, and then use all the tools, right? So you've got your 7 images, you know, so 6+ video, you've got an A+ page. A+ has changed a lot between when it rolled out as EBC content and now. And so if your A+ content is still from the modules that were available 4 years ago or 5 years ago, it looks really dated by today's standards. And so you should update that, right? Back then, the modules were very chunky, and now they're much more fluid. They look great on mobile as well as on desktop. But that's what you do. And you gotta nail down who's buying your product and why. And then the why is the most important. So really understanding what those motivators are. And sometimes you got to get in there and really get creative. Like if you've got a kitchen product, like you got to really get underneath it, because sometimes it's hard to really create the emotion around a gadget, right? But that gadget's solving problems, and people probably had a different version before they bought yours.
Yeah. So there is something you said that's so key, and a lot of sellers don't actually pay attention to it. You have to look at the reviews and then address the problem if it becomes consistent. So in other words, this is your opportunity to see how the product is being received, and the reviews that are 3 stars and down, those will tell you how to make improvements to your product. And when you make those improvements, you're going to have a better product. But what better way is there to actually make a better product than, you know, listen to the, a lot of sellers don't like those, you know, but they don't like when they get these 1-star reviews or 2-star reviews, they don't do anything about it. And they just pissed off, and then, or they get a service to remove or try to appeal. But as far as action, taking action to make the product better, that's not done. So I say that that is the most valuable aspect of the reviews.
Yeah.
Next getting you ranked better.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a misconception, right? Like the customer is not always right, but you know, sometimes they're given a review based on a misconception of the product, right? And so you better address that, you know, quickly, you know, so that, and you know, and unfortunately people don't read everything, right? So you should address it visually as well as in content.
Yeah. I mean, I had that situation. So what happened with another client, they sell a kit, a cooking kit. And this cooking kit is for kids. So the picture has a kid holding the cooking kit. So they got a 1-star review saying that the box looked much bigger in the picture than the physical. So first of all, when you're holding a box, you know, it's a picture, so it's closer to the lens. So the box is gonna. They don't think about it. So
true. And sometimes, sometimes in images, like graphic designers are going to resize things based to try to make it look better in the image. But you got to be really careful that you're not overly misrepresenting something, right? Yeah.
So what we did, we took that picture and we put a pencil above the box so that they could compare the size of a pencil versus something. It's just whatever it is that you can do so that they don't think about what this particular reviewer thought about is the thing. So let's talk a little bit about Premium A+.
Okay.
So tell me your experience, because it's fairly new.
Yeah.
So how do you get it? How do you, what are some of your favorites?
Yeah, so the way you get it is by being brand registered, having at least 15 SKUs, and having submitted the non-premium A+, uploaded it within the last year, right? So if you have over 15 SKUs and you want to be eligible for premium A+, just grab all your A+ content, change something, and then resubmit it, right? Like change a couple of words. You don't need to change it. Every time you go to re-upload it, it goes back through the approval process. So you just need to upload it again. So because it's relatively new and not a lot of sellers are across it, like we really don't have any, we don't have enough stats to speak into it in terms of effectiveness. Like, you got to get to a point of like statistical significance, right? Where you can compare it. And we're just not, as an agency, we're just not there yet. I mean, Amazon says it's going to raise your conversion rate by 25%, which I think is a big load of crap. But you can put a second video in Premium A+, which I think is probably the most beneficial part of it. So there's other things like, there's modules where you can like, they have a left and right scroll, which the reality is,
the carousel.
Yeah, but like people are not used to doing that on Amazon, and so it'll be a while before that actually has benefit, because it's super cool. It looks awesome, and you can get so much more, and you can like kind of tell a story along a timeline. But people aren't used to clicking on A+, and so I would be very surprised if many people scroll. I'd say video is by far the best part. To get a second video on a listing is huge.
Yeah. What if you have less than 15 listings?
Can't get it.
You want to hear?
Unless they changed it.
No, they haven't changed it. So you want me to share with you something?
Sure.
Well, I've covered this on a couple of previous episodes, so it's nothing new, but not everybody is listening to every episode. So the wording of the requirement is you need to have 15 A+ content submission approved in the past 12 months. That's the requirement. That does not say anywhere 15 listings.
All right, so you're just going to submit 15 new A+ to a single SKU. That's interesting. All right. More power to.
I have tested this client who had the floor kit.
Okay.
They have one parent ASIN, and it's the same thing, of course, same A+ for all of them on the same page. They submitted with some changes, legitimate changes, 15 different versions of it. And of course, the guy is a very smart young man, is in charge of the operation. And he says, I scheduled on my calendar every 3 days. I submitted a new version, slight modifications. And then, of course, 15 times every 3 days. That's time, right? So
there you go.
Within 12 months. And then he applied to be accepted for Premium A+, and he got it.
There you go. All right. I love it when I learn something when I'm not the host. Yeah. That's great. That's awesome, man. That's good. That's a good tip.
Yeah. Great. So Keith, I mean, you and I can talk about this all day long. So, but we're going to run out of time. So this was great business talk. So let's now get into who you are. So tell us, take us way back. Tell us, where did you grow up?
Well, I was born out north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but I grew up until I was 16 outside of Chicago.
So you're a tough guy who likes to lean into the wind, huh?
I was in the suburbs, man. So, I was like 45 minutes outside the city.
So you didn't have much to do with what's going on today, but it's still a windy place, right?
Yeah, I mean the city is extremely windy.
Yeah.
You know, when weather comes off the lake, the city's built around Lake Michigan, right? So, the wind comes off the lake, and you could be walking down on a sidewalk on a street, and it's not windy at all, perfectly calm, and then you hit an intersection, and the gust just comes whipping through, and almost knocks you over sometimes.
So tell us, growing up as a kid, were you business minded, selling lemonades, or what was that like?
Yeah, I know that's the typical entrepreneur story, but no, I was just I was very curious and easily bored, and my sister would say fearless. Like, no joke, I was in the emergency room or hospital over 20 times before I was 5.
Doing what? All the naughty things.
Some of those were like legitimate, like I had whooping cough when I was a kid. But the rest of them like were for me getting hurt, right? Pre 5 years old, I was just a terror, and I didn't listen very well to anyone, especially authority. And so I got hurt a lot, trying a lot of things. I remember arguing, I was like 3.5, right? We had this 2-story house with a deck off the 2nd story, and then down about 12 steps, and then into our big backyard. And then there was actually like a woods behind our house, no back neighbors. This was Pennsylvania. And my mom was like, put shoes on before you go outside. No, I don't want to. But, I'm just, being a brat, right? Run outside, run down the steps. Literally, Nick, the very first step off the deck into the grass, I step on a thorn about that big,
Oh my
goes up
God.
into my foot, breaks off,
Ah,
ER, and I had to get the thorn stuck out. I still have the scar. So I did dumb shit like that all the time, and all pre-5, back when helicopter parenting wasn't a thing.
what is helicopter brand?
Oh, like the parents are around the kids all the time. I mean, we
Oh,
just had a group of friends that were all like 3 to 7, and we just were outside all day, every day.
I mean, wow. So how does that connect to your entrepreneurial affairs?
I don't know, man. Maybe it takes me a while to get stuff. I mean, I still think I'm curious, about all kinds of different things in life. I would hope that that reckless abandon has, modified a bit to more strategic thinking, and but still relatively fearless in terms of, I've started a bunch of businesses. We charge that stuff. I'm not afraid to take on something new, all the things that, you kind of need to do as an entrepreneur. And, I think the thing that I've had to work hard on is, it's always my personality. It's more fun to start things than it is to finish things. And, and a lot of entrepreneurs are like that, but, you got to learn to continue to carry the baton, because usually it doesn't get really good until you push through some of the middle.
Yeah. How did your parents handle that, curiosity and then being fearless and getting in trouble?
Laissez-faire, hands off, my parents.
Did they encourage you or try to change you or support?
I think, my parents were, my mother's passed away now for almost 20 years, I think 18 years. But they would still be married if my mother didn't die. I mean, they were at, they were married 30 odd years when she passed away. And very attentive parents, supportive, but I just always remember, like, if it was my idea and then I started up, they kind of get behind me, right? They didn't stand in the way of really anything. You know, they tried to talk me out of some things, but I was pretty stubborn and headstrong. But once I was into it, they kind of fell in and pushed the support behind it. Pretty much everything across the board. It really didn't matter how dumb it was.
I just thought of a question. When you got in trouble, like, got hurt,
Yeah.
and, did something and you got hurt, did you get told off, or did they try to help, or what was their attitude?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the times, depending on the situation, right? Like, you know, I got spanked as a kid. Not a lot, but I did.
Well,
I
don't
think,
mean getting spanked for doing things. I mean, like when you like this thing that you step on it on a
yeah,
and then you're crying, right? You're hurting. So usually that's the moment where you are hurting. When that kind of situations happen, did you get told off for doing it, or did they try to help?
yeah. Not that I recall. I think my parents were always help the situation first, have the conversation about the lesson later.
That's the reason why you are fearless. Because no matter how much trouble you got into, that you did not feel bad, anything
Right.
about doing that. There was nothing bad, because I see it sometimes. Some parents, not because they're bad, they just there is no real
Sure.
parent good. So when suddenly, and also these things happen in the least expected moment. You're busy,
Sure.
you're doing something, and the kid does something, and then how many times I told you not to do it?
Right.
You're getting told off. So you never, if that's why I thought about this, and if you never got told off for getting in trouble at the time you were hurting, that made you feel, I mean, it would naturally make you fearless.
That makes a lot of sense. Now I'm looking at myself and my parenting with my son. I'm not sure if I did that I did it the same way. So, but yeah, it's really interesting insight.
Yeah, it's I see it from time to time, so just came to my mind. So that connects you to today, being fearless, starting businesses.
There you go. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Makes sense. The kid spills milk, right? And like, oh my God, I told you to not put it on the side of the table like that. I mean, that kid's going to be clumsy.
Yeah, exactly.
Forever, probably, Great.
Well, this is great, Keith. So I love the conversation. We can do it forever, but unfortunately, our time is up. So tell us, how can people contact you? Give us your contact information.
Yeah, I'd say, the company's website is the best. It's page.one. So it's not page1.com, it's page.one. I think we come up number one for page1.com too, but page.one. And then I do all my kind of business networking through LinkedIn. So that'd be the best place to get me personally.
Okay. Thank you, Keith. This was great. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I'm sure our listeners have learned a lot. We laid it all out. So for anybody listening, go use it. And any questions, reach out to the man, because he knows what he's talking about. Thanks, you, Keith. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate it.
And this brings us to the end of another episode, and I'll see you on the next one.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the episode, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too.